of the values. Second is like support of the values which are needed for collaborative work. So fairness and mutual respect. So say for example, when we study, we always try to refer some other people. So we want to review some other literatures. At the same time, our study we will also be reviewed by other people. So this is kind of like mutual interest. One group of scholars will help others, other groups of scholar will take from one. So this is always like give and take policy. So if I am unethical, someone who will take he is unethical, or they are unethical, you see the consequences. So if both of the parties are unethical, so the practice of unethical will go on, and this would lead to the whole destruction of our ethical standards in research, and we cannot proceed on if we have this sort of practice. And that's why it is necessary that for our collaborative research we always we have to maintain some form of ethical standard, so that the fairness and some sort of like good practice can be implied into our research conduction. And the next one is accountability of the researchers for their actions. Accountability. When the question accountability comes, it comes when we have to account. We have to have some form of to have to account for our deeds. We have to say that what we have done so far, what were the mistakes, what are the drawbacks, what are the strengths. It's especially related to research funds. Say for example, if I take some research fund from any organization to do some research for that organization, and I have to show them, I have to give them the whole account of my research. That means for field work I use that money, for the stuff I gave that portion of money. So this is where there are number of things that we have to expensed for the sake of doing the research. So if accountability is not maintained, it is very common there should be some problem, issues, unfairness, or some dishonesty is there. So to maintain an accountability, to maintain accountability in the research, we have to maintain the research ethics. Otherwise, there will be no other accountability. There will be some fraudness. So these are all the things that might be happened. And then common values are supported in the research. These are the most general moral and social values. For instance, the principle of not causing any harm to other people or animal. So I will talk more in depth in the next slides, that how we can ensure without making any harm, and we can conduct our research without without inhibiting, without harming others' rights, others others' values in the society. So if you can maintain research ethics, then you can ensure others people's values and others people's rights in the society. For that reason, we need to practice research ethics. Now, in the next chapter, we'll be looking for that how research ethics came into play and why are they necessary. And then you could also understand that why we are talking about like common values. If there is no common values, what would be the consequences of unethical standard or unethical behavior in research? So we'll look for the roots of ethical issues in research. Though I told that ethical issues, or the very term ethics was used like before Christ was born, like in BC, Socrates, Plato, they used the term ethics. But the ethics in research as such was not present even before 1930s, or even in 18th century. People did not think about like that, because the most of the research at that time was mostly intuitive research that was not that scientific, and people, you especially, they use their own brain, own intuition, and that's why they did not think much about some plagiarism or some form of ethics or some other issues that can hamper our originality of the study. But what happened that we had to think of the research ethics as so seriously after 1930s, that is about World War II. During World War II, when Hitler was in power, Nazi party was in power in Germany. So at that time, different medical experiments were being done by different medical scientists, even in the psychologists. You know that there are a few psychologists in that period where most of the psychological theories born out at that time, like Freudian theories or some William Jack's theories, some lot of theories were born. They did lots of experiment at the time. At the time, they always tried to maintain that the subject of the research, they are treated fairly, their rights may not be violated. But in the age of nudges, the scientists, medical scientists especially, they tried to practice the experiment or the research in a way that would only help them, or help the research community, help the medical community, not the people as a whole, animal as a whole. Because you know that there are few ways that people can stand out among the masses, and one thing is like innovation of medical discoveries, innovation of different countries. So in that area, in that time, the innovations are the key of all. Even now you can see the coronavirus, who could invent or innovate the coronavirus, they stood out. Like, we know their names. There are few countries that were Germany. Since Germany wanted to be the superpower in the world, so Nazi party, they wanted to promote medical scientists to use any form of science, anything that they could do for the science, to the discoveries of the science, without thinking the subjects. So these are the foundation of unethics in the modern research. And after that time, like when the Nazis were defeated, and after World War II, there was a what should I say, like charter. The charter's name is Nuremberg Code. The Nuremberg Code in 1949. In that Nuremberg Code, they actually framed some form of policies for research, that if you want to study human or animal or the subjects, research subjects, you have to maintain certain sort of ethical standards, or ethical prerequisites, precursors should be there. So this is the foundation of the modern legal issues regarding our research ethics. This is the first code in 1949 that actually pioneered all this research course that is now available even in our modern world. And the second one is like the inspiration of Nuremberg Code in 1949 that laid foundation for the Declaration of Helsinki. Is called Helsinki Declaration as well. So it was adopted by the World Health Organization, WHO, in 1964, and it has been revised again in 1975 after all the member countries were agreed to revise it in 1975. So they also told almost the same thing like 1949. The regulations or the policies almost same like Nuremberg Code in 1949. And this is also called the ethical guidelines for clinical investigation. It is specially applied to clinical investigations. This is World Health Organization. And most of the ethical issues are somehow related to, or I would say initiated by, psychologists and medical science. Because subjects, there is a huge chance that subjects are being violated severely in these studies. in our social science or business studies, we may do some, we may give some misinformation that may not cause death, cannot lead to severe consequences of our subjects. But in medical and psychology studies, these could be serious consequences, and that's why they are more aware of the ethical issues and whether they can they ensure better subjective subject preservance assurance. So this is that's happened in the WS convention or the Declaration of Helsinki in 1964, revised in 1975. And then American Medical Association took the same form in 1966 after 1964, but the World Health Organization, they changed in 1975, but American Medical Association, AMA, they did not change it. They still maintained the same declaration that was taken in 1964. So there are few world famous, very popular unethical research that have been done so far in different world history, and this actually is a kind of examples for the later researchers that this is how that unethical practice could be applied to medical research field, and these are the ways that we can come out of this. How the previous unethical behaviors in research that we could get out of the same standards or same strategies we can practice again to ensure better objectivity in the research nowadays. So one such example is like two research physicians at the Brooklyn Jewish Chronic Disease Hospital, who during mid-1960s injected a suspension containing liver cells. So they wanted to have a study on cancer, cancer study. So to conduct cancer study, they needed to have some form of cancer patient. And you know that in experimental study, we need like control group and experimental group. So for the experimental group, they need some patients, and the patients should be very much under their control, that how they can push the cancer cells and how cancer cells are grown. So they have to see from the first phase of cancer cells are injected into one's body, and how it is transformed, how it is grown up, and how these cells can be removed. So for that reasons, they had to inject these cancer cells to some older people. So this is highly unethical, because when you pushed or injected this form of life-threatening cells to one's body, you need to have consent from these people or this subject, but they didn't do so. So this is one of the popular unethical issues in research. Second one is like in it's called Tuskegee syphilis study project. These projects every time I did almost like, I would say more than 10 workshops or trainings on this research ethics and research ethics, plagiarism and other issues. Almost all of the times our trainers or the professors, they refer to this Tuskegee syphilis study project. It is so severe in the United States. After that, actually, lots of policy have been changed so far in the American Constitution and the medical field because of that project. And also it stemmed through stemmed through different issues or different problems in the society as well. Say, for example, in this study, actually, they wanted to study syphilis patient. So syphilis, you know, there is a kind of contagious disease. So most of the Black people were the victim of this syphilis. So they tried to study Black people who were suffering with this syphilis disease. What they do, they started studying these people, syphilis patient, especially in the Black community. This at first, when they only studied black community, this is one question, that why only black community? This is one question. Second thing is, when this was a longitudinal study, you know what longitudinal study is. It can be 10 years, 20 years, 30 years long study. So longitudinal study, how they do longitudinal study, we have to start from one point, we'll inject it, or we'll have some sort of like interventions over there, and we'll take note on it. After 10 years, after 20 years, without having an intervention, we'll let the group free, and we'll see the result after 10 years, that how it goes, what are the impact of the interventions that I gave. During this time, suddenly the medicines for syphilis was invented. So all the people are getting the medicines for this syphilis disease, and they are getting cured. But this group of researchers, they knowingly told the hospitals and other doctors not to treat these syphilis patients because they are under study. So if they are cured, they cannot be a part of the research. So they cannot get the research results after 10 years. And that's why they did not treat this syphilis patient. And it is huge violation of American Constitution as well, because everybody has the right to get health benefits. Everybody has the right to seek for medical health. So what they did, they actually violated this fundamental human rights of America. Even not in America, in Geneva Charter and Geneva Convention, you know, this is the core principles for all over the world. Every country has maintained Geneva Convention under United Nations. So this is a problem that they did not cure, or did not give any medical facilities to these syphilis patients. Problems are two. Number one is, it is like violation of human rights. They did not get the opportunity to be cured. Second one is like they are all black. At the time, black was huge. Black issues or racial issues was huge at the time. For these reasons, this particular project has been a great question. On the consequences or the results of that led to make or frame a new policy on that whenever you want to conduct a study, you have to take written consent from the subject you are doing or conducting research to. And for that, in 1997, when President Bill Clinton was in power, he specifically had to say sorry for that. He specifically had to say sorry for that. Yes, I apologized for that matter, for that issue, because my doctors actually, or my medical scientists, they in the Tuskegee syphilis study, they violated ethics of the study, ethics of the research. So in 1974, the National Research Act was passed on by Congress. The National Commission of Protection of Human Subjects of Biomedical and Behavioral Research was created by the Title II of this law. So when American law was passed, so they actually framed this sort of law in 1974, and that actually included all these sort of things. So the National Research Act directed all institutions that sponsored research to establish institutional review committees, today more commonly called Institutional Review Board, or IRBs, are almost present, not almost all the institutions in the USA. In some other countries as well, you can see that IRB are there. Even I just Googled today that whether India, any institution of India has any IRB or not. Yes, in India, even there are many institutions who actually maintain IRB for their internal research. So IRB in the United States, every institution has their own IRB. Without the approval from the IRB, you cannot conduct any research. Whether it is medical, whether it is psychological, whether it is business, whether it is social science, whatever it is, if it involves any human being or animal, any living things, you have to take the approval from the IRB. You have to clearly mention what sort of research you are going to conduct, how your subject will be treated, what are the possible problems or what are the possible threats that you assume on your subjects. So everything you have to write clearly to the IRB, and IRB really really severe process. Seriously, you have to go through this IRB, and every time they will amend, because I have the experience of doing my research under IRB, and I, along with my three other professors, I was the principal investigator. There are three other professors. We submitted IRB in the Ohio University. So they first reviewed all these sections that we filled up. So they had almost six questions. Six question. What does this question mean? What does that answer mean? So everything was there. So we clarified everything. Six questions. Then they came again. Again, it was not approved. Our application was not approved. So it came back. So again, we had to. There are few things they tried to know more, why you should do this, how we talk to the subjects, who will be our respondents, why this respondents, why not others. So lot of things that IRB will look for. This was actually originated from the events in the history that I told. So all of this together, they made a new form of supervision for ensuring ethical standards in research all over in the world, not in the USA. Though USA founded the idea of IRB, but it is now practiced almost around the globe. Every country has to maintain it, but some countries may not do it. But if they do not have IRB, there are many international organizations or donor organizations, they will not fund it if they do not have the IRB. So among several other issues, IRB were expected to ensure that research investigation had considered both potential risk and benefits to subject. We have to tell that what are the risks and benefits if I do or if I conduct the research. Uh, I think that's all for IRB. So you can also look for IRB protocols and how IRB can be done. So if I have time, I will show you an example that how IRB proposal can be done. And IRB protocols, IRB rules can be a strong checklist for the researcher who want their research to be very fair, very original, very honest. So IRB have this form of checklist. So you have to tick them all that yes, we maintain it, we maintain it. Even if it is one is negative, your proposal will not be approved. Okay, then another important piece of legislation was like Education Amendment Act in 1974. So that was like medical research, but in educational research there was also and so a legislation or the policy that was taken in 1974 that is all about even. Okay, let me finish it. So in 1974, the education policy was about like students and guardians, their rights, in the school, and their rights of information, their rights of privacy. So in this Privacy Act, say for example, like parents and students, all sorts of information, demographic information, their SES information, all sorts of information are preserved in the schools. So if schools anyway publish their reports, publish their information to public, so what would happen, you can understand. Everybody can do research on them, but the privacy of the particular parents or children will be hampered. This will impact on the rights, human rights of the subject. That's why in 1974, they enacted an act saying that you have to maintain privacy of the guardians and the students. Based on this article or the idea, you can now see that almost all over the world now school preserve their information, their students information and parents information, and they will not publish it without written consent of the concerned people. They need to have written consent, written consent, otherwise they will not publish it. Even you can see that if students give an exam, in the exam paper, say for example, if they say that my students get few now low grade or very high grade, another teacher or another guardian can see that, want to see that how these students wrote or how he responded to the question I want to see. They cannot. And they always want to have to ask the particular student that whether you agree or not that your exam scripts can be shown to other. Without this, it is a serious punishable issue or offense. So finally, Privacy Act 1974 offered additional legal assurances against invasive research on human subjects as well. So under this, there is another article in 1974's, not article, subsection. Another subsection under this article 1974, the subsection was like subject, human subject training. So whoever want to study or conduct any research in the United States has to have this certificate of the training of human subject. Let's say, for example, I had to do it twice, and it is not for like if you did the training for once and it is valid for good. No, it is not valid for all the whole year, whole time, whole life. It is valid only for 2 years, and after that you have to sit again for this training. And in this training, there are some like passages you have to read this passage, and there are some question after that, and you have to answer this question. Even if you get less than 80% marks, you have to sit for the exam again. So this is how this is so much of importance in American research, what should I say, research circumference, to have gain your idea about like how human subject can be violated, or they can be treated unequally or unfairly into conducting the research. So human subject study or human subject, how to conduct a research without harming any human subjects, is the core values nowadays in the research arena. So in other countries, they have different ways in their books or in context, or some organizations, so especially donor organizations, when they provide some monies to conduct some research, they always mention it that whether you have completed your human subjects training or not. So if not, there are some websites you can do your human subjects training from there. And then issues related to researchers. So there are few issues that are related to researchers that we always have to keep in mind. So what are the issues that we have to keep in mind? One is like we have to avoid biasness, prejudice, avoiding any fraudulity or fraudulent, authorship consent, copyright issues, and protection of the sponsors. So number one is like we have to be free of all sorts of biasness. If the researchers are biased, partial toward their subjects, they they will not get the actual findings from their research. And if the findings have some sort of problem, some sort of originality problem, there is no use of doing the research. There is no use of conducting the research. And that's why free of biasness is must in the research. But there's one thing about qualitative research. What we do with qualitative research? Qualitative research is controlled biasness. I would say controlled biasness. We are biased. That means we are doing quality research. We want to know from minority people, say women, if say any minority ethical ethnic community or black community, whatever it is. If there is minorities there, there is chance that we will be very biased toward there. So in quality studies, we want to have some sort of biasness. Otherwise, we cannot get the actual answer from them. So these are the ways that we can ensure better, I would say, there's justice to our subjects. And next thing is like prejudice. Prejudice, like if you have some sort of bad idea or some sort of idea that you carry with you when you conduct the research, you go to the field. It may be good or bad. bad in a sense that when you want to study black people, if you don't like black people, you would say like black people are bad, they do not have immunity or something like that. So there is that means that you have some sort of prejudice, that you are going to the field with having some prejudice in mind. So you cannot get the actual result, or you cannot get the actual gather actual data from the field if you have this prejudice in mind. So that's why we have to be always free of all sorts of prejudice. You have to keep them all away from our research research practice, or some, when we do our research. The second next thing is like avoiding any fraudulent or fraudulent. So what is fraud? Fraud means that it can be like cheating, kind of cheating, and you know that cheating is a crime. And for this reason, in research, fraudulent is also a crime. In many countries, for fraudulent in research, some people has to go to jail as well. I can name two countries. Interestingly, I don't know whether you people know or not. First one is India. In India, for the plagiarism and ethical issues and research, there are some rules or articles or some form of like policy frameworks that a plagiarized researcher may have to go to jail. And second country is the Poland. Poland also has this same sort of policies in their countries. If it is like some sort of cheating in their research or some sort of plagiarism, the researcher or the plagiarized researcher has to go to jail. So this is why that cheating in the research, we have to always be careful about like fraudulent, that we are not fraud, we are not doing any fraud. Everything we are doing is original. Everything we are providing that I have valid source. Everything we are doing, we have valid references. So we have to maintain all these sorts of conditions doing our research. So so I will talk more in the plagiarism section. It is almost related to plagiarism. So next one is like ethical and legal issues in research also include the authorship and the order of authorship. This is a very common practice around the world, even in the USA. That means students have all students, you know, in especially graduate studies, all students have to submit any form of thesis or any form of research report. Sometimes this report and this sort of report, thesis, dissertation, whatever it is, they can publish it in different journals or different scholarly write-ups, scholarly like papers, or whatever it is, periodicals, whatever it is. So there, what happens that most of the times the supervisor, the professor, they become first author. The students become the second author. So this is a very malpractice around the world. And students accept this offer for two reasons. Number one is that person is the supervisor. So if I do not accept him or make him first author, he may fail me, or he may do something bad for me. This sort of concern led them to accept the offer that the supervisor will be the first author. And second one is the name and the popularity of the professor. Sometimes if students think, it's not true, if students think that if I am the first author and teacher will be the second author, the paper may be rejected from any journal, because reputation does matter. But honestly speaking, if teacher or the professor is the first author and students are the second authors, then there's a huge chance that that will be rejected. Because in the body of the research, we do have to maintain exactly that what sort of research is it? Is it funded research? Is it our thesis or dissertation? What sort of research? Is it independent research? If independent, we have to make a rationale for that, why we are doing this research. So if the journals committees, they see that it is actually a report of the students, it is thesis or dissertation of the students, why teacher being the first author here? How come? And so there is a huge chance that the paper or the article should be maybe rejected, especially from like high index journals. So now in the United States, they set a kind of like criteria for that, that how much contribution can lead to being the first author, how much contribution can be linked to the second author. So this way they make a matrix, kind of like a measurement matrix for that. So if you can done so this percentage or this part of the study, then you will be first author, then second author. So in my case, I can give my example as like I presently I'm involved with like 5 to 6 projects. So in 2 projects, I am the first author and my professor the second author. Even one vaping study, I am the first author, and under me there are 3 full professors, three full professors. They do not ask that why, being a full professor, we are in the third position or fourth position. They don't ask me. Even they told that you deserve to be the first author of this study. So this is a huge study. My vaping study is the huge study in the United States, because we got fund from the government, and the fund is very big fund, and we covered almost 3 states in the United States, and almost like more than 3,000 university students. So you see that they did not assert or did not told me that you did not tell me that you cannot be the first author because we are full professor, we should be. No, because they saw that this was my report. I submitted in the class, methodology class, and then I, along with my class instructor, we are talking that this can be a very good area to research on, because vaping is a very emerging or promising problem, but there is no as such study from our social science background or business social science or humanities background about this. Only medical scientists, they did some. So we expanded this study. At first, it was only 120 students, then expanded to 250, then 1,000, then now it becomes more than 3,000. So the professors acknowledge that, yes, this is your report, your contributions, your ideas, so you should be the first author. This should be the case, this should be the practice. If always professor want to be the first author, they also they are also making a mistake, because the paper, there is a high that paper will be rejected, especially from high index journals. They would ask the question, if it is a report or thesis or dissertation, how come the professor become the first author? And the copyright protection of the research. So copyright protection, you know that every book or journals, you can see in the left side that there is some copyright. Who is the copyright of this book or journals? So copyright means that they own this book or own this work. So whenever you want to use this reference, use this book, or will use this work, you always have to refer to this book. And the authors and the publishers should also define and sign the copyright protection so that other users can use the work accordingly. Sometimes what happens that publishers, most of the cases, especially if the author is not that known, publishers become the copyright, or they are the owner of the book or the work. Next on, when they would sell the book, from the profit of the book will be in the on the pockets of the publishers. But if it is renowned writers, they will be they will sign the copyrights, and they are the owner of the book. And even afterwards, if they are not even alive, their generation after generation, they will be getting the profit of the book. So the reasons for this is to acknowledge the acknowledge the productivity, acknowledge the idea, acknowledge the originality of the people who actually publish this book. If it is publisher, it is their ownership as well, but we have to acknowledge their contribution in the research field as well. The sponsors of the research. Sponsors of the research is like, who are sponsoring the research? Who are sponsoring the research? Is it any independent organizations or somebody else? So if it is any individual organization, say it is a donor organization, say Rockefeller Foundation. This is one of the highest, biggest donor organizations in the world. So Rockefeller Foundation, say for example, or Melinda Gates Foundation. Melinda Gates Foundation, they're giving their highest number of donations to India. So Melinda Gates Foundation. So when they provide you some sort of research fund, you agree to do the research under certain conditions. So when you are doing this research, we have to maintain their conditions, maintain their policies that they set for you. The agreement you are in with that organizations, we always have to keep that in mind. And you have to acknowledge that every time whenever you're doing the research. Say for example, if you other than the report, say if you get the fund, you are doing the research, you have to submit a report to that organization that I have done so far, this is my findings and everything. Other than this report, you can publish it. So to publish it, you can convert it into a journal article, you can convert into a full book, whatever it is. You have to acknowledge the sponsors that my research was conducted by the fund given by Gates and Melinda Foundation, or by Rockefeller Foundation, or whatever they are. So always keep in mind that we always have to acknowledge our sponsor who sponsored their money for us. So the informed consent and implied consent. So there are two sorts of consent that we have to take from the subjects or the respondents we are conducting our research to. So number is informed consent. Informed consent, that means we have to inform that we have to take consent from there. And even if they are not able to give their consent, say for example, like if it is like some disabled person, children, still we have to take consent from their from the legal guardian, or who are taking care of them. So this is called informed consent. We have to make them clear to all, to these people, and we have to take informed consent from there. And the implied consent is something like, why we are doing this, how many times we will be with that subject. Sometimes you can see, like in some research, you can talk a lot. Some researchers, like if they're like usually curious to know something, so they will ask something outside, even beyond the necessity of the research. So this is a journalistic study they can do in investigative journalism. You can see in investigative journalism, they ask different questions so that they can get some like kind of spice, they can some ingredients for their news, because news is product to them. But for the researchers, they are not a producer, they are not like business person. They have to maintain the necessary information they need to have for their for their study only. They cannot use the information for other purposes. That's why they have to clear everything, that what we want to study, what are the things that I want from you, how many times I will be with you. If I get this information done, then I will my work is done with you, my interview is done. This is called implied consent. And then undersharing. So undersharing and oversharing, there's two things. So sometimes you know that before doing our study, we have to talk to our subject, we have to tell them that why we are doing our study. So when we are doing this, either we can undershare, that means we cannot share we don't share everything. We may say like, yes, there are huge purposes, but if they know that they may not participate in the study, fearing some issues, and that's why sometimes any researcher can hide them. This is called undersharing. You cannot undershare, you have to exactly say everything that you want to do. Second one is oversharing. Sometimes we want to exemplify, we want to amplify our talk to the subject. We can say that yes, this one would be huge implications that could be like a government policy will take upon it, and if you participate in the research, so America will have new elections, Trump will go out, something like that. So you cannot say something like oversharing issues. You have to tell your subject exactly what you want to do in your research, what you will cover in the research. And then confidentiality. So confidentiality, anonymity, there are two things that we have to differentiate when we do our research. Confidentiality is something that you know the name, you know the subject, but you want to hide the information or hide the identity of the subject. This is called confidentiality. You know subject, you know who is doing the research, who is responding to your questions, you know them, but you will not publish it. You will not tell that who told this or who responded to that particular questionnaire. But in anonymity, even the researcher doesn't know that who the respondents are, who the respondent is. So especially I told you in like through Qualtrics softwares, or even now we can pass over the questionnaire with some course, or even you cannot say, you just can, yeah, you say your name by one or two codes, uh, like what is called like short name, whatever it is. In different ways you can ensure anonymity. So the very sense of anonymity is, if any slight way the subject or the respondents could think that that could be a problem for me in future if I answer this question. So if it is like, say, do you support this government anymore, or how, what is your perception about the government? So this is uh, uh, very, I would say, like it can be a very serious question, it can be a serious issue in future. And that's why this they want to avoid this sensitive question if they know that somebody can detect them. And that's why in that situation, if it is like very sensitive studies, sometimes the researcher has to make it more anonymous. They do not they may not understand, may know the name of the respondents they are doing the research to. Okay, then the plagiarism, the issue of plagiarism comes. So plagiarism has become one of the, I would say, the most used or buzzwords nowadays in research field. All other things are the part of ethics of the research. All these components are important, but plagiarism has become one of the anonymous to ethics of the research nowadays, because it has been practiced a lot in the law, in the research field. And at the same time, it is the most hazardous, is the most problematic issues, and it also causes like huge challenges for the researchers or research practice. So what is plagiarism? Plagiarism in a short sentence or short definition, you can tell that you cite somebody without acknowledging their language, thoughts, ideas, or expressions. Somebody found something, did some research, they have their own findings, they have their article published, but when you use them, when you refer them, you do not acknowledge their contributions, that I found or I got this particular information from that person, I found this information from the researcher or from the article. If you do not acknowledge that, this is plagiarism. So some way you have to acknowledge their contributions, their write-ups, otherwise it is plagiarism. And plagiarism in many countries has become a like criminal offense nowadays, even more than criminal offense. Say for example, in the United States, for any kind of like a criminal offense, if it is like misdemeanor act, if it is misdemeanor, very small criminal offense, there may be like for 1 month jail, 1 month imprisonment. After 1 month, they are free. They can do their anything they want to do. There is no bar for them. For only for 1 month misdemeanor act, there may not have any bar for them. But it is more than that. There will be some conviction. This is called conviction. Convicted. They could be convicted as they cannot do work for a certain period of time. But for plagiarism, this implied a huge thing, because they cannot apply to any scholarly job, say for say educational job, be it teaching, be it like academic administration, be it in research position. They cannot do it anything anytime if it is like they are convicted with plagiarism. Second is, they are all those articles they send to, they will be confiscated. Sometimes this article will block these writers for their whole life. They cannot submit another paper to this article again, even if the other articles are good. And you have to go to imprisonment as well. As I told, in India, you have to go to imprisonment if there isn't plagiarism. Even in the office or the organizations that you are working, there is a huge reputation problem. Nobody will believe you anymore. So there's a lot of things that are related to plagiarism. And for these reasons, in American schools, especially the university, all these universities, they are practicing of train up their train up their pupils or the students, especially the graduate students, or who will do research, conduct research. And they train up their students for plagiarism, uh, either by individually or either by any organization. So every institution, as I told, have IRB. So sometimes IRB people will go to particular department by rotation, and train up the graduate students to be aware of the plagiarism, what plagiarism means, what are the things that you have to take care of. So in many countries, plagiarism is no problem. So there is another issue that you have to keep in mind. In many countries, especially I know some African countries, where plagiarism is not that bad thing. They may think that it's better if you can, if you're not just good. Even some countries, they actually encourage plagiarism. That means you are praising praising that person. You are quoting this person. That means that this person's idea was so powerful that you are quoting this person. There are very few. There are very few. But in modern world, almost all countries, they are agreed upon one thing, that is plagiarism is an offense. So that's why we have to take special care on plagiarism, so that we are not taking any sort of citations, any sort of reference, any sort of thoughts or language or ideas from other sources without acknowledging them. And a ghostwriter, you know about like ghostwriter. Ghostwriter, some people would say that since ghostwriter is always ghost, you cannot touch them, so may not always detect. But there are number of uh, world famous people who were ghostwriter. Especially you can see like in all American presidents, when they are in power, they publish a book of their own. Like Barack Obama, he published two books, you know. Every president. I don't want to say that Barack Obama did some use some ghostwriter, something like that. No. So what they do, actually, they hire some writers. So this writer will write on behalf of them, and they will publish these articles or this book on by their name, and they will just pay something to the writers, and writers will be always on the dark. So these people, or this since we cannot see them, that's why we call it ghostwriter. So ghostwriting practices is not new. Even Shakespeare is sometimes are attacked by some people, or some literature, that Shakespeare's all writers were not original. Actually, there are some other persons actually who write on behalf of Shakespeare. And because Shakespeare did not go some places, how he know about these places? So there are a lot of debates are there. So ghost writer, in a short, that means that ghost writer will not be in the screen. They will be always in the behind the screen, but they can write for somebody else by money or some other benefits. So now I can show you that how you can ensure your paper free from all sorts of plagiarism. So there are 4 steps you can maintain. Number one is like follow this, keep track of the sources you consult in your research. Whenever you get any secondary sources, always take a note, always take a diary, and instantly write the source's name. Sometimes you will feel that you write the source name, but after a few days, and when you start writing your report, you will forget that where the report or where the quotation you took from, whether it is the exact quotation or you just took the paraphrase. And that's why you try to keep a maintain a diary when you conduct a research. Second thing is paraphrase or quote. One is paraphrase on the basis of one statement of the writers, original writers. You can paraphrase their ideas. So in the paraphrase, it is said that some people say that you cannot use three words, more than three words at the same time as a whole. Some would say that your idea should not be matched perfectly. So it depends on some supervisors or professors as well. But one thing is clear, that is quotation. When you take some quotations, you have to directly acknowledge with the publication date and their page numbers. So it depends on the citation style that you are using, but most of the citation styles like APA, ASA, or Harvard citations, they always follow the want to have the publication date with the page number. Uh, Otherwise, you cannot detect that where from you took your quotations from. Okay, the third thing is credit the original writer in an in-text citation and reference list. So in text or the body, you will write, say for example, the last name or the publication date of the work, or you can write last name or whatever ways. In different citation styles, they have different forms, different ways of citing the original write-ups. But whatever it is, you have to maintain, or you have to maintain a TD process, TD same process throughout your research paper. So whatever you do, you just have to do two things. One is in citation, and another one is like in the reference list. In the mold text or the body, you would write their name, and the reference list or the bibliography you have to write in detail their name, all the author's name, publication date, name of the book or work. Even if it is like chapter, you have to write both book and chapter. And then even if it is from like website, you have to write the name of the website with the access date, that when you access this website and when did you find it. And use a plagiarism checker before you submit. So you can also check your plagiarism if any reasons or any way you missed any points, or you wanted to make it a paraphrase but it became a quotation, so then it is a plagiarism. Though you are not that aware, or your idea or your sense was not that bad, but your supervisor may not take it. They would think that you plagiarized it knowingly, intentionally. And that's why it is always better to check your plagiarism by yourself. But in many universities, there is a service under IRB or sometimes under library, that is called what is called, there's a name of it, I can tell you. Turn it in. Yes, turn it in software. So most of the universities, they use turn it in software, either under library or under IRB. So for the students, they are free, so you can just put your articles there, or the thesis there. They can automatically detect whether any presence is there or not. Other than this, there are some free softwares, there are some paid softwares you can use for your articles. So I just rank them. There are 10 best plagiarism checkers. Number one is like Skipper, or the what I told Turnitin. This is the first number one in the world. And the second one is Euphorus, Qtext, Compilatio, Bivme, Plexscan, Plegrammy, Grammarly, Small Setols, and SC reports. But mostly you can see every time the ad of Grammarly. Grammarly is widely used nowadays because it has two versions. One is without payment, another with payment. So if it is with payment, this is premium version. In premium version, you have access of more than millions of books and references. So you can easily your Grammarly can easily detect that is there any plagiarism is there. But if it is not, if it is without payment, then they have limited versions of that. And now, yeah, new era of ethical concern. So new, as I told, and everything is somehow related to books, articles, or something. But in present world, you can see that present world, our citation style, our publications, all are changed. Both the writers and the authors, they have access to websites, they have access to technology. It makes the work easier. At the same time, it makes easier to be plagiarized, or easy to plagiarize your write-up. This is the concern of the modern age. But at the same time, we can also check it more strongly, or more, I would say, efficiently than before, because you have lots of websites there. But there are some challenges and issues that we have to keep in mind. The first one is like, many areas of social scientific inquiry have benefited by extending their data collection studies to include the internet. One thing I told about, like Qualtrics. Say, for example, previously, what we had to do to collect data, we have to either take the interview, or we had to go to the respondents, or we had to deliver questionnaires to the group of people who we want to do. So this is actually, it is a hazardous process, or the long term process. But now Qualtrics, through websites, you can easily maintain this. You just in the website, in the Qualtrics software, you will write all your questions in the questionnaire, and you will just set the email address there. You will write the email address there, and automatically this will go to the respondents, and respondents will respond. They will fill out the form. Automatically, it will be preserved into your system. So this, you see that website makes people easy, or makes system easy, and so statistical software is another example of that. So one way, this technology, cyber issues, and websites like ICT, all make our all these things make our life easy, or research easy. But at the same time, there are some issues with that, that actually arose on the wake of this technological advancement. Like now, we can have access to lots of thousands of websites. We can have access to take reference from any of the websites, any of the sources, that nobody, sometimes people may not check with that. If you do not have the plagiarism, it is almost impossible to detect that what you took the what you took the idea from. If you do not have that plagiarism software, or plagiarism detect software, manually it is impossible, because thousands of information are there. Third thing is, to check it, we can use plagiarism software. That's why wherever you are taking this from, plagiarism software can detect it. So these are the all things that you can practice. You can somehow stop it, and you can somehow track it. So these are the things that make a kind of like interplay among these practices, or among these sources. So at last, we can say that we cannot go out of this system. So we have to be here, but as a researcher, we have to be careful about that, what we are doing, what things that we have to careful about, because for our own sake of life, as I told, that in big platform, or any scholarly endeavors, scholarly organizations, wherever you want to work, if it is respect, if it is renowned or distinguished organization, you will be in problem, great problem. It will it will take you into this position that you cannot get out of. Your bad reputation, as a researcher, you cannot get any job in academic positions, even you have to go to jail. So there are several reasons that we ourselves have to be more honest when we are doing the research. We have to keep ourselves set away from all these sorts of problems or ethical issues that may come up doing our research. I think this all from me, because our another professor is waiting for today to he would say more about it. So any questions at this point? Let me check the chat box. Okay, one by one. Okay, yeah, Melinda Gates Foundation. This that NGOs are not following the ethical issues because they have injected to people in India, the tribals who do not understand anything and had severe side effects of the injection given to them. Yes, as I told in the Tuscanji project, the same thing you are also referring to. In India, they are doing the same thing. It's really, really bad. And I don't know what the government, since you know that that means it is published, it is everybody knows it is in public. So why government didn't take any action, or is there any action they took? I don't know. Uh, can you share some more information regarding undersharing and oversharing? Okay, yes, undersharing, oversharing means like you know that when you want to conduct a study, you have to clearly mention, you have to clearly discuss the reasons, your aims, objective of the study to the respondent. So when you talk to the respondent or clarify your study to the respondent, you have to tell them the exact information. You cannot undershare, that means you cannot hide something. You cannot undershare, that means you cannot you take something yourself that I will not tell to them, but this is your aim of the study, but you want to hide them for some reasons. And you cannot overshare, that means to get their attraction, or to make them more serious. You said that your idea, your research is for, say for example, your research is on like how how soft skills can lead to better employment opportunities, something like that. So if you are studying this sort of topic, on this topic, and you are taking a questionnaire, or you are conducting study on, say, graduate students, recent graduate, or graduating students of a college. So you go there and tell the students that if you participate in this research, you will get job in big organizations. We will set the information, we will give the information to the big organizations, and when you apply it there, they will see whether your name is there, and if your name is there, then they will hire you. So this is oversharing. Your study is not that serious, or not that powerful that can lead to getting job to one person. This is oversharing. And if you hide something, you want to use it uh, for, say for example, you want to use it for policy making process, but you have concern that if I tell my respondent that if I use this sort of information, then they may not respond properly. They may hide some of their ideas, because they may think that it is threatening for them. And that's why you cannot hide something. If they do not agree, if they do not give you consent, you cannot do research on them. But for getting their information done, you cannot uh, undershare something or overshare something. Exactly, you have to tell something. If they accept it, then you can take the study or the questionnaire field, and if it's not, then leave it. And then if research does not require names of respondents, is there any other need for researcher to ask question about the respondent's name? Yeah, if there is no need, it is anonymous, yeah, a researcher cannot ask the name. Ask the name. Sometimes researcher do something like they can tell that I am asking the name for my own benefit, to just because for our discussion I may know your name and I have to call you by name. That's why I need it, but I will not use it into research. One thing. Another thing is, sometimes it is a like a blind questionnaire. That means you will pass it through the class. Like if it is a classroom, you'll pass it the class. Nobody will write their name, so they will fill it out and you send it back to you. So this is another way anonymity can be ensured. Even some case studies, in in case studies, never you can see actual name. All the case studies, they use some fake name. So they will use the fake name. If it is male, the male fake name. If female, female fake name. And they will write the whole report, case report or study, but this is not the actual name. But they know it, they know the exactly everything, but researcher know everything, but they will not publish it. In the situation of this case study, if the researchers do not know the name, there is another problem. They have to know, and they have to keep record of it. Is there any need for, okay, is it possible to projects like, no number again please, project 9, new areas of ethical concern? Yeah, okay, I'll go one by one. First thing, I told you that we can be benefited by extending their data collection strategies to include the internet. So one thing is, like, we can say, I told you that we can get our data from the internet. There are thousands of platforms or the websites, then we can get where from we get the information or the data. It can be government GSS, it can be national nutritional survey, whatever it is. At the same time, your research can be uploaded into websites, so other people can use your data as well. So both way it can be helpful. And second one would be web service have become common. As I told, web service like Qualtrics, I told you, Qualtrics is a software, is web service. You don't have to go to any people, you don't have to ask any questions. It will, your questionnaire will be automatically reached to different respondents. They will respond, and it will automatically preserve into a system. So this way it also help us. And qualitative researchers can also take advantage of various benefits afforded by the web. So qualitative researchers can also take some benefits as well. Say, for example, focus groups to be discussed can be formed via the internet to simultaneously undertake data collection among all small groups composed of individuals in several distant locations. Say I want to study um, study the condition of, like, divorced women. Say divorced women, what their condition, why they were divorced, what the consequences of it, how are their lives, something like that. For that, you want to have quality research on that through focus group discussion, FGD. You know what focus group discussion is? Like, a researcher will ask a group of people together, because they can answer discussing with each other. One person will ask another person no here, and they can also add or modify some answers. This way, focus group discussion or FGDs can be a very powerful qualitative research methodology. But in some cases, it can be problematic, because in one place you may not get all these divorced women together. You may get someone in one district, another in one state, another state. So different states, different areas, there are people. It is almost impossible to gather all these subjects or respondents together. And that's why focus group discussion through person to person or in front is sometimes challenging. In this situation, you can use websites. So you can arrange a meeting. It can be through Skype or some other forms, or now Zoom. So different people will be there. All will be connected in Zoom or in the group meeting, and you can ask easily other people. They can switch off their cameras. So the number of ways that you can do so. Even now you can the online platform, most of the interviews are also going through these ways. Without, you can see, just imagine that without Zoom or without internet, what would be the situation of us in this era of pandemic. So that's why websites helps us a lot. So since it is available, so there is a huge scope for fraud, fraudulent, or some sort of cheating. And through these websites or through this internet, we can also check this source of fraudulent and this cheating. And what else? Okay, then thank you for the information. I missed. How many requested to share to the session recording as well. Okay. You need to, yes, sir. I think, yeah, I answered all the questions. There is no question anymore. If open just one question, I see one question. I'll just answer it by 2 minutes. If you allow me, please. Okay, so whoever asked me about like literature review website, I will give all these materials, all these resources in one folder to the authority, and you can get this folder and all the materials through them. I compiled websites, compiled different softwares, different things you can find there, and there are some accessible forms. So I think, yeah, that's all from my part. So I'll just like ask Dr. Atul Kumar to.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah,
Yes,
you're done. Thank you so much for such a wonderful session. Sir, I had one query. Yesterday I wanted to ask, but we had extended beyond limit, so I couldn't ask. If you can just provide a little guidance for the, nascent researchers who want to write a good paper and they do not have much, because in these days we see there's a lot of you can say competition or rat race among the researchers to write good paper and get it published. So for a person who is very new to writing towards writing a good research paper, they need to collaborate with somebody, right? Normally we see research papers are written in collaboration. So
yes.
how to, can you focus on how to build a networking and get access to people who have already written good research papers and guide the nascent researchers towards giving a
I
practical.
understand.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah. So there are several ways they can do so. Number one, I would say this is the LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you will find almost all scholars there. So you will just look for the scholars or the researchers on your background, on your area or on your perspective. Reach to them. This is one way. Second way is whatever areas you want to work, you search it in the Google Scholar or other whatever other softwares or other websites. So go there, write your keywords. You will see number of articles there. Most of the time you see author's email address, their contact info, and everything is there. So you just can just email them and say that, sir, I am also interested in this, or madam, I am interested on this. So I found your article, this is fascinating. So when you write email to them, always keep in mind that you have to somehow review a small bit review of the existing paper, and they will be interested that yes, you have the potentialities that you can work or you can contribute something for the future work. So this is another thing, reading one's article, getting their contact info and contact them accordingly. And the third way, I would say, is through different universities. In different universities, you can search for different universities, their faculty profile. So every universities, they have their icons of like a faculty profile there, and just see that what are their expertise, what their strengths are. Most of the time, most of the faculties, they want, even they are looking for some people that who can work with the faculty members, because faculty members always look for some publications. In United States, you know that how important like publications are almost around the world, but here they will lose job if you cannot publish. And that's why they always look for some researchers that if some people are interested in, then they want to collaborate with them. So
Okay.
this way, I would say that seeking the help of the professors of different universities, looking their profiles, reach to them, and even if if you say email like 10 or 20 people, almost 50% would say you something. Either yes, I am busy, or I would say that yes, I'm interested. Please say send me a kind of like synopsis or what sort of research you are working want to work. So these are the three ways that you can look for a potential researcher.
Okay. Thank you so much. It's really very helpful, sir. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Mhm.
So I think we have come towards the end of the session, and I guess we don't have any more questions. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mehboob sir.
Thank
It
you.
is really good to see you. And I think we have one of our senior professor, Professor Anil Kothari sir. So he is interested to give a feedback and propose a vote of thank to you, sir, for this session. Anil sir,
Thank,
please. Thank you, sir.
thank you, Atulji. Mehboob sir, an excellent session today on ethical research issues related to research, plagiarism, and other legal issues. Sir, actually, if you remember the first day when you had given assignment, and the next day people sent you certain things which were copied or downloaded from the internet. Today those people might have got a clarity that what is meant by plagiarism and what are the ethical issues in research. And unless and until ethical research is not done ethically, it is not going to help. It is not going to help because the work has been done somewhere, and that may not be correct in today's world. The time is changing. See, post COVID and pre COVID, things have changed a lot. The behavior aspect has changed, and if we just copy something from somewhere, it is not going to help. So what I can say is that how to do ethical research, we got your point. Plagiarism, it is becoming, and now UGC has become very strict on this. Even they may cancel the PhD of the people who have 15 to 30% plagiarism, as well as the guide may be debarred in future. So all the new researchers who are here, they must ensure, and a very good question was raised in the last, that collaboration. Yes, collaborative papers are very good and it will help you in international publication. So if you can get some collaboration, it is very good. So thank you, Mehboob sir. I'm enjoying your sessions, and thanks to Atul sir and Devai Patil for giving this opportunity to all the researchers. What I'm seeing is that the keen in people who are looking, they are continuing in these sessions. Initially, we had 200 and something participants. Today, we are having 130. So these are the people who are keen. And thank you, Mehboob sir. Looking for another session today. Thank you, Atul sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Hello. Yes. So we have. Okay. So we have. We'll be continuing with another session with Dr. Pasupuleti Visweswara Rao. Sir, we are welcoming you to this session, and it's really our great privilege to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So it's a great privilege to have him here. Just a small introduction of him. He is currently an associate professor in Department of Biomedical Sciences and Therapeutics, University of Malaysia, Sabah. He started his career as a lecturer at 2006 at Government Degree College, Emeralds, India, as an assistant professor, and then moved to Dongkuk University, South Korea. He joined University Sains, Malaysia, as a postdoctoral fellow during 2013 to January 2014. He worked as a deputy director and the director for the Center of Excellence, Institute of Food Security and Sustainable Agriculture at University Malaysia Kelantan, and is currently working as an associate professor in University Malaysia Sabah. During early 2016, he was appointed as an affiliate member of Young Scientist Network Academy of Science Malaysia, and in 2018 as an executive council member and the co-chairman of International Networking Group of the same. He teaches biochemistry, biopharmaceutical technology at University of Malaysia. He is also an internal examiner for master's PhD thesis at University Malaysia, and also an external examiner for PhD thesis for the different universities abroad. He has published more than 75 publications in national as well as international journals, 4 books, and 6 book chapters in Elsevier and Springer. He is invited as guest speaker or inviter speaker in more than 40 conferences nationally as well as internationally. He is serving as an editor-in-chief, editorial board member at various positions such as associate editor, technical editor, topical editor for different international journals. He is serving as a reviewer for more than 70 journals, including Scientific Reports, International Journal of Nanomedicine, Biofactors, Colloids and Surfaces B, Materials Science, and the list goes on and on, sir. So he has won 26 awards for his excellent contribution in the research and has also featured in top 2% scientists in the world by Stanford University, USA in November 2020. It's really a great pleasure to have you, sir. Just to add one more, that his recent achievement, that he is recently appointed as a National Committee member for Research Ethics and Integrity for Malaysia. And we are also having a talk of him on the same topic. So it will be very enriching to have your association and to listen from you, sir. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and sharing your thoughts today. Hello, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Gitaja, and also my sincere thanks to Professor Atul Kumarji. So within a span of 2-3 months, I'm giving another lecture in this particular university. My pleasure collaborating with this university and also with you, sir. And thanks to whole management for having me here. Hope all of you can see my slides, and you might have wonderful sessions with Dr. Mahmood since 4 days. That's what I could see from the schedule which has shared with me by Prof. Atulji. Well, let me share my views on research ethics and integrity, what we are doing for Malaysia. And we have also done very thoroughly this one since 5 years. And in 2018, we have published a module to the government, which is by Academy of Sciences Malaysia. So where I was one of the executive council member. So this has actually been practiced by the whole country, all public and private universities. So we usually train different government universities and also private universities across the country, even some of the ASEAN countries, not Asian, some of the ASEAN countries. So hopefully we are trying to be there in most of the countries in Asian also as soon as possible. Yeah, once again, my sincere thanks to the coordinators, Dr. Atul Kumarji, and also Ms. Gitika Cha, and convener, Professor Amol Gawandiji. So, well, when we talk about integrity, it's a big word actually. So, integrity is a very, very big word, but to look at integrity, it looks very simple, but when we practice it, it's very tough. So integrity in a layman language, we can say is Say, for example, we are going in 120 kilometer speed in the midnight. So where the roads are very empty and you suddenly see the traffic light. So it's up to you whether you can stop or you can just go forward. Because you're going in very speed, high speed, 120, 130, something like that. The roads are very empty. So that's where integrity comes into the picture. So usually when we talk about integrity, it's within us. It comes from the individual. It is not just, appearing somewhere there. It is within the person. So if you have high integrity, if a person has high integrity, then the person will stop seeing the red light even though he is in 120 degree, 120 kilometer per hour speed. So in a very layman language, we call it as integrity is doing right things when nobody is watching or when nobody is seeing you. So that's what we are training the people about, the integrity and ethics. Ethics is it's a combination of values and morals and principles where we have to practice. It can be personal or it can be in research life. Yeah, well, so this is in a professional way, we can say that conducting the research in ethical manner, which provides trust and confidence to others. Because when somebody is using your research, whenever you publish, just now, Dr. Geetika was asking a question like rat race. Nowadays, exactly, I agree with that. So nowadays, people are really feeling like publishing a lot and trying to be in the top or trying to be somewhere. Say, for example, it can be in the department or it can be in the faculty or it can be in the university or it may be within the region. So that's how usually people are trying to compete and people are trying to do more. So in that particular, whatever you can call it as, so I don't want to name it as anything. So in that particular momentum, the researchers are trying to give some lenience to the research ethics and integrity. So where they are trying to go with a very nice curve shapes, results and other stuff. So that's where they are just trying to manipulate. But most of the researchers, they try to hold, high research integrity and also follow ethics. So that's what clearly this particular information says about. It's all about the methods and the results of particular research can be easily followed or can be easily admired or can be easily understandable by other researchers. If someone sees your research, they should understand your research very easily and they can follow your methods and they can easily replicate or they can easily rely on your things so that they can get the same results when they do in their laboratory. And here comes the main picture or main question, we would say, is research integrity important? Well, as I mentioned in the very first slide, it is completely depends on person first. Then if you ask in a public, we should say it is a must, because again and again, our research is done with high values and ethics, and we have to show them to the public that if you repeat the same research, you will get more or less similar results if you avoid the human errors. If not, say for example, if not following research integrity or ethics, and we conduct the research somehow. So here, two different things I have mentioned, researchers and organizations. These two particular components will be in the problem. So they will be in the problematic phase. If the research has not been followed with very good research integrity and ethics, so certainly it is not good for the researcher. Maybe for the time being, the researcher can have very good applause, but later on, when the other researchers come to know that that research is not really done with proper ethics and integrity, then it is the problem for the researcher. So, which means he will be the very much front line that the researcher will be caught. Okay, but the problem will not stop until the researcher. Then it goes to the department level, then it goes to the faculty level, then again it goes to the university level. And whenever there are some conflict of interest, so conflict of interest is again a very big topic. So conflict of interest raises, usually the journals or the people will contact the university, even though they contact the researcher, but they will also keep the university head, which means vice chancellor or CEO of that particular university will be in the loop, which means the organization also will be in the trouble if we don't follow the research ethics or integrity while conducting the research. Yeah. If, say for example, something happened wrongly or not to happen anything, in a different way, or to avoid, the organization, any organization, it can be college or it can be university. So they have to establish, they have to establish one particular research center or ethical committee. So these are the main points, role of organizations in maintaining research integrity. Number one is to promote research with high ethical values and standards, which means the organization and the responsible persons should promote the research with high values, high ethical values, and also standards. They have to promote a lot, and they have to ask the researchers or the scientists or academic staff to conduct the research with high ethics and standards. And second one you can observe here is to establish research committees, ethical committees, especially those who are working on especially sciences. Here I have given 3 different areas: animals, who are working on animals, who are working on humans, even especially social scientists, even some of the MBA graduate also, even in our universities, even the management people also work with human samples. They work on questionnaires, all those stuff. Still, they have to get the human ethics approval number. And bioethics, biosafety and biosecurity. So this is also while people are working on various types of instruments and also various types of microorganisms, they have to get these kind of ethical approvals. So if they don't get approvals, the first question from the journal will be on ethical committee approvals. So if they don't have any ethical committee approvals, then certainly they don't trust the research has been submitted to the journal. And finally, to monitor the research from time to time. This is not one person's job to monitor the research from time to time, because every university per se, they will be having research committee or research forum, or what we can say high-level research committee for the university. They can be called in different names in each university. So that particular research committee of the university will try to visit the labs individually, and then they try to monitor the research whether it is happening ethically or not. So which means continuous monitoring should be there from the university level. Well, from the second point here, if you observe, to establish research committees. So these are the main things. Why to establish research ethics committees? Number one is awareness in the research scholars, and even awareness in the young academic staff or budding scientists or early career scientists. And reputation, once you have these ethical committees, so the research will be going on very properly. They will be following all sort of research ethics and also integrity points. So obviously the reputation will be there. Once you have reputation, then finally recognition. Once you have you're holding all the ethics and integrity while conducting your research, you can publish in big journals, and people may approach you, from your region, maybe from other departments, maybe from other colleges, from other universities, even from other countries as well. So that's where when you withhold all the proper things in your research, then certainly people will recognize you. Then organizations will recognize you. Then probably that's where you will also get more research grants, more collaborations. With collaborations, you can do miracles. So that's the end of the story. So they will grow like yeah. Does all researchers need ethical approval? Well, it all depends on the various types of research fields. So here I have given again the same thing: humans, animals, and forests and environment, bioethic, biosafety, biosecurity, all these sort of things need animal ethics. However, if you observe, some standard business schools also have their ethical committee. Even the management side proposals also, which are related with public policies, dealing with government officials, dealing with humans. So they all certainly need ethical approvals. So with that, certainly the papers or the manuscript submitted to the journal will be publishing in a high impact journals. So, or high impact factor journals. Okay, it can be impact or it can be impact factor. So whatever you're dealing with, humans, whether it can be qualitative, it can be quantitative, or it can be a thorough research. So they should get the animal or human ethical approval numbers or ethical approval clearances. Where previously I was the founding chairman for animal ethics and also biosafety, biosecurity. So there we usually get various applications from different faculties, not only from the researchers who are dealing with these particular aspects, even beyond and above, there are some researchers, they want to do interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary aspects, even from social sciences. So they try to have some parameters which are dealing with this kind of stuff, and they apply for animal ethics or human ethics. So these are all the principles of research integrity. So you can have a look into the slide. It's all about honesty. Number one, you must be honesty for yourself, and while doing research, we must be honesty. Since once you publish your work, your work will be there forever in the internet, or it is available across the globe. And reliability, once you do the right things, so there is no question of not having reliability. So it will be reliable. Use of robust research methodologies. This is one of the most important aspect. Robust research methodologies. So you have to use a very clear and established research methodologies while conducting the research. That is why whenever we have experimental plan or experimental design, we go for standard research methodologies, even though they are old. So we go for very standard research methodologies. And impartiality and independence, open communication, duty of care for participants, fairness, high standards of mentorship and supervision, awareness of responsibility to society. So all these points, even open communication. Nowadays, even open communication, you can explain in different manners, or you can try to understand it in a different way. Open communication, it can be publishing openly, or it can be openly you're communicating with your students, which means transparency. And duty of care for participants. Say, for example, your participants are humans, or if your participants are animals. So you must have particular care for the patients. Say, for example, we do research with human samples, various types of patients. And most of the time I also work on animals, rat models and other stuff. So we try to, decrease the pain, or we try to care for them. So that is mainly about the sciences or very deeper into the animal sciences and human science. Fairness, yeah, when we produce the data, it should have fairness. When you do the things, they should be reproducible. So it should be with fairness. High standards of mentorship and supervision. Yeah, this is one of the most important things we can focus on when we have students. So there should be very high standards of mentorship. So the supervisorship or mentorship should not be misutilized. So it must be with transparency and also with high research integrities. So awareness of responsibility to society. Why I have mentioned this particular point? Basically, we use the money from the government. Money from the government comes from taxpayers. Taxpayers are human beings, general public, which means we must be responsible when we are producing the data and when we are publishing the data to the public again. And here two main points we have to remember whenever we talk about research integrity or ethics. It's mainly Code of Responsible Conduct of Research. We call it as RCR. It is widely, very much widely practiced in the USA and also other developed nations. So in Malaysia also we have RCR and we are conducting across the country as well. And another one is research misconduct. This is a very big area of mishappenings in the research, where a thin air of the things happening across the world. However, we only know the tip of the iceberg. So usually there are so many research misconducts. If you observe or if you follow the journals, they will be retracting lots of papers every time. So this is mainly breaching of ethics. Maybe if they don't find the ethics breaching during the submission or during the review process, maybe after publishing the manuscript or after publishing the paper, if the editors or if any of the editorial board or if public publishers find that there is some falsification or fabrication or anything mishappening occurred in that particular published paper, they will retract. So those kind of papers will will be gone with the retractions, where mainly breaching comes into the picture. Well, so in this particular slide, I would try to explain as much as I can for research misconduct. Number one is fabrication. So fabrication, usually we talk about making up the data of results and recording or reporting them as if they were real. Just they come just like that. So you don't have any data, so you fabricate everything, then you just get the things very beautifully. So these are the examples. Data created out of thin air, and data from another paper was relabeled and presented as a new set of data. And then finally, data collected from own experiment is manipulated and presented as two different sets of data. So these are the main examples of fabrication. So fabrication means just like we get the data out of thin air. So second one is falsification. Falsification means maybe they get the data, but the data the researchers get may not be exactly what they have expected when they designed the experiment. When they started the experimental design, or when they produce their experimental design while proposing the proposal or while presenting the proposal, so the results might not be matching with the expected outcome. That's where the researchers try to make beautification. In other words, we call this falsification in research terminology or in research misconduct terminology. So they just try to manipulate the research materials or equipments or even data, so without any justification. So that is called falsification. So these are the two different examples. adding multiple fictitious data points to make the data or the graph look better, or if it fits the expected outcome or expected result. So that's how usually they try to modify, manipulate, or beautify them, into the proper shape so that the results will look very nice. And manipulating the settings of research instruments as well. So this is also comes under falsification. Third one is, everyone knows about it, is plagiarism. So it's all about plagiarism. Usually in a very layman terminology, we say, hey, he has copied and pasted, man. So just like, it's just like using others' data without proper permissions, proper citations, or just taking the whole sum of information as it is and using as if it is their own. Okay? Using other people's work and ideas without giving proper credit to the original source. This is how usually plagiarism occurs. It can be verbatim, mosaic plagiarism, insufficient paraphrasing, self-plagiarism, and also idea plagiarism. It's not only about writing papers. Only while writing papers we use plagiarism. No. Even say, for example, two people are discussing. Say, for example, I have an idea, or some person is discussing with me. He doesn't have any idea about that particular proposal. So if I disclose the idea to him, then he may be having better facilities than me. So he has the capacity to start the work, much before, ahead of me, which means I cannot start the work, but I have the idea. And I have already disclosed to the other person. He has started working on that, which means stealing the idea also comes into the plagiarism, which is called as idea plagiarism. So these are the various points, research misconduct. It may be looking very simple, but it is a very serious matter. For the time being, maybe it's okay. It looks pretty okay. Then later on, if that particular research is known to have research misconduct components in it, then definitely the consequences will be in a bigger manner. Because usually, even if you observe some of the cases, I don't want to mention the names here, but some of the places, even from some other countries, there are so many cases where they even lost their lives within the laboratory. Some of them they shot dead in the laboratory by themselves, suicides. Okay, and some of them they have very much bad consequences in their life. So it has very major consequences. Often it starts with a small action, and every research stakeholder has to play a bigger role in safeguarding the sanctity and trustworthiness of the research ecosystem, because we are all using the taxpayers' money. Sometimes maybe the researchers and the academic staff or academicians, we forget that we are using taxpayers' money. We are just getting the grant from the government. However, the government is giving the grants from the taxpayers' money. So that is where we are always asking the people, even here also in Malaysia, our team always conduct various types of workshops, and we try to give awareness that we have to spend the money and give proper results since we are using the taxpayers' money. And I will be adding some more slides on redundant publications, since this particular workshop is on publications. So we have to have thorough knowledge or thorough understanding of redundant publications, which means this usually occurs when the author publish a partial work or complete duplicate of data, which means I publish a paper in journal A, and then again I want to publish the same data in journal B, which means it comes under duplicate or redundant publications, which a researcher should not do. And simultaneous submissions. So this is also should not be a practice, especially for research scholars. If any research scholars are present here, So this should never happen. You cannot try to submit one manuscript to 2-3 journals at a time, and then you can just check your luck. Okay, no problem. If one journal reject, another journal will be going on. No. Once you have a result with you from one journal, then only you can proceed with another journal. If one journal A rejects your paper, then only you can go to journal B. So this is just basic information for you all. And authorship, maybe I will be ending soon. So authors make the authorship should be given to these people who have made or who has given their substantial contributions, basic physical ideas or discussion, even conception of the ideas, laboratory experiments, or who execute the work in the laboratories, or who execute the work in the field, or who execute the work in the particular premises of the research areas. And detailed calculations, who does all the result calculations and also interpretations, and all authors share responsibility and accountability for publication content. Whatever the publication you are making out of your results or your research, you should have the responsibility and accountability of each of the component of your research. And list of affiliations of each author. Say, for example, an author is he belongs to a particular university, and he may be involving with other areas of research in other universities. Maybe they can use 1, 2, 3 affiliations, no problem. Some journals even they can allow research affiliations up to 4. So one person can use 4 affiliations at a time, and allow all the authors to review and comment prior to submission. So whenever you are writing a paper from the draft, make sure that all the authors of the manuscript read it, and make sure that all the authors of the manuscript confirm the corrections of the manuscript, the first draft, second draft, or third draft, whatever, until it becomes final. So you have to be transparent with all the co-authors who are involving with that particular manuscript. And journal will send email to all authors. Most of the times nowadays, the standard journals, what I'm talking about, they will send email to all authors as soon as you submit the manuscript. So your co-author should not be in shock saying that, wow, when did he submit the manuscript? So I didn't know about it. Even very recently also I came to know one of very known groups, they have done this. So then the other university person, they have raised the conflicts. So then they have to withdraw the manuscript. So which means all the authors and co-authors, supervisors and research scholars should be more ethical, should be with more integrity. So this is from Brain Brown: choosing courage over comfort, choosing what is right over what is fun, fast or easy, and choosing to practice our values rather than simply professing them. This is what he defined as integrity. So with this, I again sincerely thank the management of DPU and also the organizing secretary, Dr. Atulji, and all the members of the faculty. Thank you so much. Hope I have not taken much time. Maybe I have passed 10 minutes. I was given only 30 minutes.
Thank you so much, sir. It is good to learn from you. It is always good to get the knowledge from you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
You are master in that, sir. Okay, sir. So I would like to call one of our participant and professor with DPU, Sudhir Patil, sir, to propose a vote of thanks.
Hello. Sir, it is requested to kindly stop the sharing, please. Thank you, sir. So on behalf of Dr. Diva Patil Vidyapit B School, I, Professor Sudhir Patil, very much thankful to Professor Pashupuleti Vishweswara Rao sir for spending their valuable time with us. I am thankful to Dr. Amol Gaonde sir, Director of B School, and Professor Dr. Atul Kumar for providing this opportunity. I am also thankful to all faculties for joining this webinar. Thanks to all once again. Have a good day.
Thank you, Patil sir. Here I would like to share something with all of you that on a very short notice we have invited Professor Rao, and he is so kind and generous. I was just randomly talking to him that we are having one of the program by Professor Mabu from University of Miami. So I requested him to deliver a talk on, because he shared that that he has recently become the member of the Research and Integrity Committee of Malaysia. So I requested him to deliver a talk on this session during this 5 days STTP program. So sir, really we are very much thankful. It is always pleasure and pride to us for learning from you, for listening to you when we had a discussion last time in the conference as well. It is always good to see you, sir. So thank you so much for accepting our invitation to deliver this session. And on very short notice, just I think day before yesterday we were interacting to each other, and on a very short notice you delivered a talk. We are really grateful to you, thankful to you for enriching the knowledge of our participants and to giving them something additional apart from the regular sessions which are being conducted by Professor Mahboob, who is very much phenomenal in the research area. He is actually having a God-gifted talent in the research area. Thank you, Professor Mahboob. Thank you so much. And everyone, today you might have received 2 different emails from our end. One would be of your regular assignment, and second is related to the feedback of this session by Professor Rao from Malaysia. So I would request you to all please submit the assignment as well as the feedback for Rao sir's session. Okay. So once again, I would like to thank you all the participants for becoming so generous and keen to learn. Actually, we started this journey with 500 people, and we got the enrollment for 201, something like that. And till the end, I think that we have to issue the certificate of the completion to less than 100 candidates. So we can understand the scenario of research, among the researchers. Anil Kothari sir rightly mentioned that what exactly happening with the research in India, the people of this country, how they are taking the research. No. And we have very senior, we have very senior professors, those who are continuously, at this age, this point of time, they are continuously being with us from last 4 days, and they have not missed a single session, as well as they have submitted all the assignments, like Professor Deva Prasad Bhattacharya, Professor Ruby Chatwal ma'am. Those are very much, those are very senior, and at this age they are learning and completing the assignments. And I have seen many of the friends, researcher friends, they are not exactly, by even attending the seminars and the sessions, as well as as well as not submitting the assignments. And even today, sir, today we were having this seminar on this ethics topic. And once your session completed, I have got 8 or 9 submissions immediately after your sessions. They've copied it from the internet. after getting the lecture of 1.5 hours, they directly copied their assignment from the internet. So please.
Only interesting thing I will share after that. Just finish.
Yeah. Please share, sir.
Okay. So when I was going through different articles on ethics and plagiarism and everything, so I saw an article and I found that exact chapters in another book. And that lady, actually, she's a European scholar, might be. She wrote an article on ethics in research and plagiarism, copying from that book chapter of another guy. On ethics and plagiarism, she wrote plagiarism. Very interesting, yeah.
So Rao sir rightly mentioned that. Integrity starts within yourself. When no one is watching you, no one is monitoring you, you have to be honest. That is what the integrity. Otherwise, there is no meaning. There is no meaning of just getting the sessions of such kind of things. Even though, okay, actually, I think if you have any question for Rao sir, please go ahead. He is with us. Anyone wants to interact, we can unmute him or her.
Yeah, with pleasure. Most welcome.
Yes, sir. So please unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, Rao sir from India, and good afternoon once again, Professor Bhuya sir. My question is simple. That means while we have been learning so much about research from Professor Bhuya and now so much from Professor Rao sir, my question is, sir, as a faculty, I see my job to be threefold. Number one, teaching in terms of class hours allotted by the institute. Number two, research in terms of publications. And number three is collegiality, that is interacting with the fraternity to rope in more corporate members by way of increasing our branding. My humble question to you, sir, is what should be the percentage allocation amongst these three in terms of research, in terms of teaching, and in terms of collegiality to make it 100%? Your call, sir, your views, sir, please.
Yeah, that's a great question, sir. I would like to add some points to that, which we usually follow the exact scenario also here in Malaysian context. So we usually take, say for example, we categorize into faculties and research centers. Say for example, faculties where main area or main core business is teaching, and research component is only for 30%. And 70% will be academics. However, 30% should be research. The lecturer should do research. If you are in the research center, say for example, Center of Excellence. Last time I was a director for 3 years. I was a founding director. So there, the research will be more. You will be having more research components. 70% will be research and 30% will be teaching. He will be only attached to one faculty. You will be teaching only one subject or half subject per semester. Teaching is very, very less. But however, that particular research center people, we call them as fellows in the research institute. So they usually have to produce more papers in a year. Say for example, if we have research institute, we say 40 publications per year in SCI journals, not any other journals, or minimum scopus. So in that particular institute, say for example, there are 10 people, everybody should publish 4 papers, quality papers. If there are 9, it's divided by 40. So if 8, so everybody should publish 5, something like that. If you are in the faculty, then definitely you have to, contribute towards more curriculum developments, more module designs, and you have to take more final year project students, which means 1 year project students. So you have to train more students. It is student oriented. If it is in the research center, it's more research oriented. So that's how usually. And another component here we follow is what we don't have in India. What we follow here is, in India also it is there, but I'm not sure how much percentage is there for that. Here we also take another component called innovation. So for innovations, we also ask most of the lecturers to participate in all these kind of innovation competitions. So we also have that particular component. And apart from that, we also give weightage to the consultancy, where the research what we do should not be lying down in the laboratory or within the 4 walls. It should go to the community. So we also give priority to the consultancy, which means we should be able to promote our research, our product to the people. It can be, it can be the society or it can be the industry. And another component we have, it's public-private research networking, PPRN we call them as, which means if you're working in the university, you have to get another partner from another industry. It can be private or public. Then you have to do collaborative research. So I have similar kind of activities with some of the Indian universities. Even we have combinedly grants also. So which means we are expanding the wings in various categories, so that we can achieve 100%. And it should be spelled by the organization. Organization has to play a bigger role in this. So organization needs to have a core committee for this, where they will be, giving the right strategies. What are the strategic points to be filled, for each faculty or research institute to have this 100% or to fulfill this 100% at the end of the day. Otherwise, if everybody is doing the same job, it becomes redundancy. And second thing is, we don't know where we are going. We don't know. Everybody, see, if we live about university, everybody is, we are more taking care of ourselves. Definitely, everybody is looking for their own job. We have to do our job. So until and unless if university says something, okay, you have to go in this direction so that you will have your 100%, then they will try to have their own strategies to fulfill those 100%, those components to fulfill the 100%.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Hope
much.
I have given right points.
It was extremely explicit. Thank you so much, sir.
Atul sir, can I ask?
Yes, ma'am. Always welcome. Please,
Thank you,
ma'am.
sir. Thank you giving me an opportunity to speak. Good morning, sir. Rao sir, Mahbub sir, good morning. A very, very nice, insightful session, short and sweet. Short and
Namaskar, madam. Thank you.
Namaskar, sir. Namaskar. All
Much
the
appreciated.
aspects are covered here. My question is that during pandemic period, now vaccines are going on under trial with different companies. MOUs are signed. And I want to know that what about conflict of interest and, cyber security and all that in this? How will we rate?
Sorry, madam.
MOUs are signed with other companies, collaborations and sponsors from other countries. What about conflict of interest and taking care of cyber security and all that in this?
Well, yeah, thank you. It's a nice question, madam. So is there any continuation to your question?
No, sir, only clinical trials are going on.
Okay.
So we see that how they will be controlled, like conflict of interest and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's what actually I wanted to mention in my slides. So you can ask the questions beyond and above also. So that is what I expect. So that's a good question. When we talk about conflict of interest, usually when we sign MOU with anyone, see here, three different things I will try to explain. Number one is letter of intent, which is not, which is not liaised with any legal issues. It is just a paper. If you do the activities in between LOI, letter of intent, it should be okay. MOU, bit stronger than LOI. MOU also, you can do the activities, but there is no guarantee that you can do the activities. If somebody is not doing the activity, you don't have any authority to sue them. If, until and unless there is any financial implications. Okay. Third one is MOA. Because last time I was a director for this international relations, even now also I'm a coordinator for this. So this is MOA, Memorandum of Agreement, where you have all kind of legal eligibilities to sue the partner. If they breach any kind of, illegalities or whatever the points mentioned in that particular agreement, if they breach, if they do something without your kind notice, then you are eligible to sue them. So that's how it is. MOU usually, until and unless we have financial implications, nothing can be done in MOU. MOA agreement, yes, you have definitely financial implications and you have very straight expected outcome. The goals will be very, very firm. You have to achieve the goals within the time duration. So if you don't achieve the goals, then even with the duration also, you can try to approach them. You are not you are not getting the results within the time frame. So otherwise I don't foresee any conflict of interest until and unless there is any financial implications.
Yes. Sponsorship. That we can take into consideration when sponsorship is there. Sponsorship is there, yeah.
So hope I answered your question, madam.
Yes, yes. Thank you, sir. God bless. Have a nice time.
Thank you.
God bless. Babu sir, God bless. Thank you. Thank you, Atul sir.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I hope that have enjoyed both the sessions and learn a lot. Hello. So see you tomorrow at 10:30. Oh, okay. I think, sir, there is one question from Professor Ramesh. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Sir, is it audible to you?
Yeah. You are audible, loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Sir, good afternoon to the both the research persons. A fundamental question, particularly to Rao sir. Sir, you talked about redundancy of publication, maybe. Okay. Suppose say if a candidate presented a paper in a seminar or conference, and the abstract is published in the proceedings only, can that research paper can be submitted for the publication in any of the journals? That is one question. And in continuation, second one, recently that people are approaching the online surveys, like say email or maybe something like that, or maybe some Google forms and so on. So what about the authentication of these surveys? Maybe there is a possibility of fabrication and so on. How can we overcome these? So these are the two fundamental questions that I am expecting.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for the questions. So first one is a very valid question, since many of them are doing that. Say, for example, once you publish your abstract in any international conference and they have published it, and you have all the data with you except the abstract. Abstract only you have presented in the in the conference, and you have submitted it, and they have published it in the proceedings. Then what you can do is, which even some of our friends, colleagues, even I also encourage, you can submit to the journal, even though the abstract has been published from the part of the work, you can submit to the journal. However, in the acknowledgements or in the disclosure, you can mention that this work has been published in the conference, so and so conference. Here, mainly you have two benefits. The journal editor or reviewer will see that in a positive way, saying that this work already has been reviewed by so many people in the conference. So they will not be having any conflicts. And the editor also will not say that this has already been published because you have already disclosed it. So that is what we call it as ethical disclosures. So you're not hiding anything. If you hide the same thing, if you have published your abstract and then you just submit your full manuscript without saying that I have published the abstract, then it might be, there is some conflict. Even conflict of interest is a very much gray area. So some people say the same thing is not conflict of interest. Some people say it's a conflict of interest. So that's the way of doing. I mean, that's a very good question you have raised, sir. It's also very good for research scholars. So they have to, present in the conferences. And also they have the target to publish in the papers, in the journals. So they can do in this way. They can disclose the ethical disclosure and they can submit. So the first one. Second one is you are getting so many emails or for authentications, so for taking their services. You mean language editing services? Now please unmute yourself. Maybe Atul sir, you have to
Hello.
allow the speaker.
Thank you, sir. So can I continue?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the second question is that, sir, people are doing surveys by using email addresses. So
Sorry, service for?
So we are getting data, particularly people like management stream, getting data through surveys, which is sent across mails.
Okay, yeah.
So what about the validity and how can we overcome the fabrication of those things? How can we assess the quality of that data collection?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's also a good point here in this platform. When you are giving your services, the first and foremost thing is the researcher should know what kind of survey you are doing. So whether they will try to take your personal data or not. So if say for example you get the survey from the known persons, then you can proceed. Otherwise, most of the time if I were you, I usually don't encourage to continue with the surveys. Only very well-known surveys or the mail from very well-known person, then I will proceed. Otherwise, I will most of the times I ignore. Better to ignore if you don't know the person who sent you the survey.
That is one aspect, sir. Second aspect with reference to the validity of the data. Suppose if a researcher is collecting the data from different, respondents.
Yeah.
So how that we can qualify it as a valid data? Suppose if it is collected, they are saying that we collected through mails. So they are writing in the methodology.
Well, okay. I can answer this one since I am also actively involved with some of the qualitative and quantitative research with social sciences people, even with management. Just before this talk, I was having another collaborative research discussion with management people only. So they're usually, whenever they get validity, when you are asking about the validity, whenever they send you some forms, questionnaire, they do all the questionnaires. Before that, they do market analysis. And they do the validation first before they send it to the public. So then only they will try to get the information. So which means it is statistically, their questionnaire has been statistically approved. Then only they will try to circulate to the faculty members or any researchers across the country or across the world. So which means they already have the particular validation, they have already been done. Once they get the data, then they will just use the formula, validate the final outcome of the results. and interpretation will be done accordingly. So validation should not be a problem.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, any other question? Anyone wants to? Okay, I think there are no more questions. So we can formally wind up the session with by thanking you to both of the speakers for today. Professor Rao, thank you so much once again for accepting our invitation on very short notice and becoming so kind and generous, sharing the knowledge and thoughts. And
My pleasure, always for you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And would like to also thank you, Professor Mahboob. He is with us. It is midnight. I think it would be around 5:30. Sorry, you have to.
Oh yeah, I understand. Yeah, it's the 4 a.m. in the morning. Like early
Okay,
morning.
it's a 4 a.m. in the morning. Even after this session, he's continuously with us for more than 1 hour. So that shows his zeal to learn from the others regarding the research and other. That is why I usually say that he's having God gifted talent in terms of research. Thank you, Professor Mahboob and all the senior professors, Professor Deva Prasad, Professor Ruby Chatwal ma'am, and other my fellow colleague. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. And tomorrow we will have also the valedictory session after 12:30 p.m. So I would like to request to each and every participant to spare some more time, maybe 1 hour at least after the session. So tomorrow we will definitely have the discussions and the talks from two of the eminent personalities, Dr. H. Sahabuddin from Indonesia. He is head of advisory board, University of Kuala Indonesia. And we will also have a session by Dr. Malayadari Pacha. He is a research advisor, management and commerce at Center for Economic and Social Studies, Hyderabad. So you will have an opportunity to learn from these two eminent personalities. Hope to see you soon by tomorrow morning at 10:30. Thank you so much. It's goodbye for today. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you once again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Some of them have asked my email ID. Maybe they can get from the organizer.
Okay. Sure, sir. Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.